Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Conservation Conversations. It's going to be a humdinger, everybody. We're really looking forward to tonight's episode. We've got some very familiar faces joining us. There's past participants of Conservation Conversations. There's previous hosts of Conservation Conversations as well. So it really is going to be a fantastic episode. I hope you're all equally as excited as we are. But as I said, another episode of Conservation Conversations, everybody, season 6, episode 6. And like I said, a bit of a humdinger this evening as we delve into the online launch of Robert's Birds of Southern Africa. I'm really excited about this one. I know everybody, all the panelists are waiting eagerly in the room here at the back. Well, it's not the physical room, it's the Zoom virtual room. Uh, but they are eagerly waiting and rearing to go. We'll be having a panel discussion, and like I said, some magnificent names in ornithology joining us this evening. This app is revolutionary. It has some remarkable features and is a vast improvement. Then moving on to tonight's panel, a pedigree of individuals joining us. And we'll start off with brief introductions for Herman, who has been involved in app development. Herman has produced 2 award-winning apps. I'm sure many of you make use of them and are familiar with them, the Tree Identification app, or Tree Pro and Grass Pro, and as well as Bird Pro. Andy Featherstone is chairman of the Wits Bird Club, editor of their magazine Bok Makiri, and his passion for bird life began in the UK in the 1980s. He continued thereafter to move to South Africa in 1989. His career within construction provided the necessary background to enable him to project manage the refurbishment of BirdLife South Africa's offices, Isdale House, here in Johannesburg, as well as our offices in Cape Town. Duncan McKenzie is co-director of Digital Earth, a company that specializes in biodiversity and mapping projects across Africa. Duncan is the lead author on several bird books and is a member of the National Sabbath Steering Committee. Duncan has been a trustee of the John Faulkner Bird Book Fund since 2021. And then last, but certainly not least, Guy Upfold, who has been here on Conservation Conversations not too long ago, where we discussed the latest Roberts Sunbirds and Sugarbirds publication he was involved in. Guy is a passionate photographer, wildlife enthusiast with a deep appreciation for birds and plants, and has been involved in the production of over 10 publications that are renowned in the Southern African ornithological and botanical communities, and also a devoted trustee of the John Faulkner Bird Book Fund. And then, deep breath, none other than Melissa Whitecross, who was the founder of Conservation Conversations and tonight's co-host as making a guest appearance, who will be facilitating the panel discussions. Melissa, welcome back. All too familiar, I have little doubt, and I'm sure that many of tonight's participants have now fallen off of their chairs because they were not expecting you to come and join us, and we all know how much everybody loves Melissa. So Melissa, welcome back home. Well, everybody, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and without further ado, hand over to Melissa.
Very much, John, and very good evening, everybody. It's so fantastic to be back with all of you on the Conservation Conversation screens. A massive congratulations to Christina, John, and team for carrying on with this absolutely fantastic program. I cannot believe that it is 6 seasons already. Just a phenomenal effort, and so wonderful to see how the show has continued to showcase the absolute best in birding across Southern Africa and beyond. And tonight we have a very special evening lined up for you as we take a little virtual look behind the scenes at the new Roberts Birds of Southern Africa app and meet the incredible team behind this exciting and ever-evolving tool. The bird app market in our country is certainly growing, and it's great to see that the Roberts brand is reinventing themselves and bringing a very new and exciting product to our smart devices. But I think I'm going to start off with Guy. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about Roberts. It's one of the oldest and biggest brands in Southern African birding. And I'd like you to just share a little bit about the history and really the philosophy of the Roberts brand, and expand a bit on the John Fulker Bird Book Fund as well, and how its role has played out in supporting the Roberts brand in Southern Africa, please. Over to you, Guy.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us all again. Thanks for having me again and having everybody else. I've been working with Roberts stuff for quite a few years now. Working with them, working with Hugh mostly. The trust actually started in the 1930s, I think it was, and it was then by John Fulker, and it was called the South African Bird Book Fund then. And then in the 1960s, I don't know the exact dates, it then was changed and sort of made into a proper trust and called the John Fulker Bird Book Fund then. And since then, they've been producing the Roberts books as well as helping with other books that have been out. So it's about 90 years old now. The trust operates as a non-profit. So all of the money that it makes goes back into the trust, into publications and the work that it does. When they established the trust, they had sort of a few simple goals, and they were to publish and help support publication on Southern African bird books, and to contribute to ornithology or the study or interest or awareness of South African birds, and then to make the publications accessible and affordable, or I think they're called reasonably priced. So the trustees or us, our responsibility is to make sure that we can keep doing that, and we can make enough money to get new projects underway and keep them underway and make sure that we have projects going in the future. So obviously things have changed over the years a bit. It's not just books now. We now have digital publications and that as well. And it's part of the reason that the app is getting more and more the right way for us to look at it, to keep up to date and make sure that we are up to date with everything. And that's pretty much the trust.
Thank you so much, Guy. And I mean, following on from that, as you said, it really was built out of creating bird books. And I know so many people whose worlds have been opened by the platform that the Roberts Field Guides laid for the many other bird books that have come out of this country subsequently to that. But you were instrumental in that book design and the sort of layout of the Roberts Field Guide second edition that was published in 2016. And I know I've always got to bring in the secretary bird angle, but you did don the cover with it. Always, hands down, one of my favorite field guides. How did you take your experience from building the book layout into a more digital space, and how was that transition for you?
Managing a book, or managing the designing and the layout of a book, is obviously very, very different to managing an app. So with the app, I was really just part of the team. There's no ways that I would have been able to do it. And we knew for quite a while that we needed to get our app updated and that. And, I've always believed that content is king. And we're very lucky with Roberts that we've got plenty of that. And from the talented and knowledgeable people over the years that have contributed to the books and that. So good content makes it easier to produce a good product. But this project needed a bit more than just good content, and we managed to get a good team together as well. The app, to put together an app like this in such a short time, it's quite a feat, actually. So we're lucky to have Andy, who was the project manager, to keep things going and get everybody to stick to the timeline and what was planned. We had the creative ladies at Bismod who helped with the look and the feel of the book and in the early stage, not the book, the app in the early stages. And obviously Smart Search with Herman, Peter, and Pleasure's amazing programming. and all the other people in his team, as well as obviously Duncan and myself and Brett from the trust and the other trustees. But there were lots of contributions from many people, you know, from photos and videos and calls to helping with all sorts of things, with looking at maps and looking at how it works and that. So it's been a team effort, not just, and laying out the book was very, very different to getting the app together. We got lots of people to thank for the app team.
Absolutely, and no small feat at all. I think before we dive into some of Andy's project management progress, I'm going to come to that in a moment. But Herman, I think everyone always loves some punchy, quick fire facts. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the really mean feats that this new Roberts Birds of Southern Africa app has achieved?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, I mean, you know, Roberts, as Guy says, is all about content. So it's important that we've got a really comprehensive app. So just in terms of the words, I actually did a quick exercise. We got over 3 million words in this app. Now, if you put that, the Bible contains about 800,000, which just gives you an idea of the immense scope of what we're talking about. You know, it's a massive, massive amount of information that you've got here. Something that you'll get, you'll have to carry a suitcase of books in the field to have what you've got on, you know, on the app. So just in terms of that information, is already incredible. Then you get to the other things like the images. We've got over 9,000 images, of which about 3,000 are illustrations, and the rest are photographs. We've revamped all of that, by the way. We've got new photographs. You know, the technology in photography has improved in leaps and bounds. So we've got incredible photographs now, of all the variants and the different forms and different, you know, subspecies and all of that. So that we've got quite a comprehensive list. And just by the way, you know, everything that we do, we want to expand on. You know, it feels like a journey that we've just started. We are going to expand a lot on that going forward. Then on the calls, we've got over 3,000 calls at the moment. Again, we're going to expand a lot on that and add a lot more calls. We just got many, many calls from many contributors, which is really, really great. And yeah, again, you know, the contributions from the people that have that have wanted to get involved is actually incredible. We've had a lot of people offering their materials, so it's really great, and we slowly working through that and adding that to the app going forward as well.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Herman. It really sounds like this has been not just your team building this app, but really a contribution from the South African birding community taking on this incredible project. So wonderful to see everybody's got a little sort of stake in this brilliant masterpiece that, as you say, will continue to evolve. But Andy, I'm going to turn to you as the sort of project manager and coordinator. There certainly sounds like there's a hell of a lot of information out there that you've had to manage and source and coordinate, and multiple contributors across many towns, continents. Can you tell us a little bit about your process and how you managed to handle that volume of information coming through and really orchestrate where all of this needed to go into our tiny smartphone devices?
Yeah, sure. One of the first things we had to do was to analyze what goes into an app. Users just see the front of the actual app itself, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into the background of an app to actually build it. And so the first thing we did was to analyze exactly what goes into it. Once we've done that, when we put a timeline against it and put times against each of those particular processes and produced a program. And then going forward, we had to just monitor that program and just see how things progressed against it. Inevitably, you get delays in something, so we had to sort of shuffle things around at times. And we also had the regular meetings just to monitor it and see how things went. As far as people being in different areas, I mean, obviously we're talking now on Zoom, and that was the way we communicated with our meetings. And sort of monitored the whole situation using Zoom and Teams. One of the aims of the new version of the app was to totally refresh the images and the sounds, which we used on the previous versions. And so in order to achieve that, we reached out to all the birders across the country to submit their images. And we also approached the bird clubs and asked them to contact the sort of experts within their own clubs who had photographs and sound recordings to submit those as well. So the response was really great. We had over 150 people respond with offers of photographs and recordings. And that's where we took it from there. Obviously, we had challenges as we went along. IOC, as you know, constantly updates their lists, and we had a new list that came out after we were sort of halfway through, so we had to adjust some of the species within that within the lists and get new images and new illustrations and new text. So that was another one of the challenges we faced as we went along.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's one of the beauties of being in the digital space. If you try and do that in the book space, that book's printed and there it sits, you'll have to bring out a whole new edition. Whereas with these digital editions, one can make those changes, as you say, Andy. But lamps and splits aside, Duncan, it's time for you to take on the mic. And I know we spoke a lot about the images that have started to be improved and some of the sounds. But really, the maps and the location searches within this app are really, really phenomenal. And they've come a hell of a long way since I certainly used other versions of the Roberts brand. And you're one of the most legendary and prolific atlases in the country. Can you tell us a little bit more about how this app is leveraging the incredible repository of citizen science data available, please?
Yeah, sure, Melissa. What a pleasure. I mean, as we know, maps are so critical to the experience of using an app or using a printed media. The beauty of an app is that maps can be updated as data comes in. So the data we are using, the primary data we are using for the app is coming from the Southern African Bird Atlas project, version 2 or iteration 2. And this data has been collected by citizen scientists. I think there are just over 3,000 observers that have contributed to this project to date since 2007. And I think I don't have the stats at hand, but I think we're over 10 million records in the database, which is remarkable for a citizen science project. And I'm pretty sure that we're over 300,000 lists that have been submitted for the sub-region. So the app is covering the sub-region of Southern Africa as determined historically. So that is the region south of the Kunene and Zambezi rivers, which runs the northern Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and it kind of cuts Mozambique in half. This database, this immense database, invaluable database, and I don't know that there are any other databases in the world that are this accurate, contains the data that is double vetted. So as observers submit their data, the computer system compares the data to existing records, and if there are any anomalies, then the observers are requested to provide additional data. So, and that additional data then gets sent to regional Atlas Committee members, volunteers, and these volunteers then double vet those records. So basically the Atlas data is remarkably accurate. So, and this excites me a lot because working in the scientific field, I need to use accurate data, and I feel so confident that the data that is presented in the app are accurate. However, we've had to buffer the distribution ranges slightly to allow for any inaccuracies and also observer coverage. So there is a slight buffer on every species, and obviously the maps are weighted according to reporting rates and displayed as such. So the higher the reporting rate, the darker the shading will be on the map, and then the lower the reporting rate, the less the lighter the shading will be. And I believe this assists the observers in the field because they can see where they are on the map and determine, oh, this bird that I'm looking at is either out of range or out of known range, or it's at a low reporting rate, or actually I'm in the core of its distribution and I should be seeing this particular species. However, with any data sets, there are challenges, and some of the challenges include observer bias. So if a national rarity pitches up and everybody flocks to see that bird, it's going to get a false reporting rate. So we've had to manually manipulate some of the data to counter in false reporting rates. For example, national rarities that we observers flock to and submit atlas cards. So you might get a species like Egyptian vulture, which was at the Olifants Bridge for quite a while, and everybody flocked to see the bird. And many observers submitted atlas cards for that particular bird. So you actually get a false representation of its reporting rate in that area. It has not been seen since. So we've actually manually manipulated many maps to counter this sort of thing. But also really cool is that we've got a seasonal map, so monthly map. So you've got birds that are migratory. Many of our birds are migratory and are absent in our winter months, or conversely are present in our winter months. But if you're going to read through the text to find all that information out, so we've got maps for our migratory species. So you can search month by month and see what the reporting rate is, or the likelihood of encountering that particular species in a particular month in the area where you are. And I think that makes a huge difference in terms of, so this whole static map versus, sort of a live or a fluid map. Static map being in a printed media versus something on an app where you can actually look at a map that can move, can change as the months go by, which is really cool. Wearing my atlasing cap, as you've mentioned, the more data that observers submit, the more accurate our maps are going to be. So I would like to encourage atlases to continue, because ultimately it's open source data, and we're using the data to populate these maps and provide the most accurate maps of any app that's out in the market.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Duncan. And wow, I mean, absolutely phenomenal to think you could be sitting somewhere as we move through March, April, May, and start watching those maps shift as things like the European rollers that BirdLife is tracking so avidly start to leave our shores. Just brilliant. And I can only echo your comments around the citizen scientists and what an army we have here in South Africa, an absolutely phenomenal database, and every single person who has submitted cards and gone out there and really put their birding to a good purpose. That data is so invaluable on so many fronts, and here's a perfect example of why. So a massive thank you to all of you out there that Atlas, and once again, Duncan, a huge congrats to you on your incredible contribution to those over 10 million records. But Herman, if we think about birders, we know they love to make lists. Can you tell us a little bit about the listing software in the app and the potential for users who have potentially had the previous apps and wanting to access their data and bring it across into this new version? Can you tell us a little bit more about the functionality and ability for them to do that, please?
Yeah, sure. So the listing or the sighting logging functionality that we got, we really built on what was in Roberts 2, because that was quite good functionality that was in there. So we've reflected the same thing, but we've added a few new nuances to this functionality. One of them is that if you're in a list, you can see the birds that are in your list, but you can also see, when you go to the list, you can see all the birds that you've identified, which are on other lists, but not in your list. And you can also see the birds that have not been identified, in any of the trips. So it breaks it into 3 groups. You can see the birds in your site, in your trip, and then the birds that you've seen but not in your trip, and then the birds that you have not seen. So that's quite funky, in my opinion. I found it very, very valuable when you go into the field and you want to see, yes, and the other beautiful thing is it works with your location setting as well. So if you get a specific location selected, it'll show you the birds in that location, and then you'll see, well, in this location I've seen these birds. These are the birds that I still want to see. There might be 10 or what that you haven't seen in this location, so you can keep an eye open for those birds, which I think is really really nice. The one thing that is quite a challenge for us is to migrate the data from the old Roberts app, because we had to write the app from scratch, from the ground up again, in order for us to get the newest technology and the newest programming languages and everything into place, which means that we couldn't connect the 2 apps. We have to get the sightings out of the old app and into the new app. So there are some instructions in the app of how to do it, but you basically have to export the sightings from the old app and then import it into the new Roberts. One of the other features that we've got on the new Roberts is that you can share your sightings automatically across your devices. And this now works between Apple and Android as well. So if you get a family and you want to share all your sightings, you can log in with the same email address and automatically sync. And it syncs to the cloud, downloads and uploads all your sightings, and your friend or your family can share in your sightings that you've seen.
Fantastic. I think there will be lots of jealousy making, sharing going on between family members, I have no doubt. And as you said, very doable to translocate those sightings. But as I always say, new app, new reason to go birding, go start a new life list and go see all those wonderful birds yet again. So that's fantastic, Herman. Thank you for sharing that. And before I let you step away from the mic, I was lucky enough to have a go at the app before we did the show, and I see that there's a really cool ID search feature which has improved significantly since I certainly used some of the other apps available in the market. And there's a whole range of approaches one can use, from prioritizing the habitat that you're in. Me being the ecologist I am, I always like to think about the environment that a bird's occurring in, the color of the birds, the size, the plumage. Can you tell us a little bit more about the thinking behind this search feature and how it can help particularly newer birders in trying to narrow down some of those more difficult IDs?
Yeah, I think it's a good call out. It's a very valuable tool for new birders. I know that the seasoned birders aren't, they don't really need that kind of functionality, but a lot of the new birders really want to identify from scratch. And it's actually quite challenging for us, all being, birders on the team, to think, how would a new birder approach an identification? Because, they don't have the years and years of experience. They don't know the families. So it's very difficult. So we had to come up with something that helps the novice birder to easily identify it. And, therefore, things like colors, shape of beak and so forth, all of those features are there to select from. We also plan to actually expand on that, by the way, to add a lot more things like nesting, which we've already included. But we also plan to have sections for difficult birds, maybe in future, specifically, like the LBJs assist you to identify them and so forth. So the one thing that's different from the old app, by the way, is the algorithm that it's built on. So the algorithm is a lot more robust, and it actually limits the options that you've got based on your previous selections. So if you selected something yellow, and there's no yellow bird with there's no yellow raptor. All your raptors will disappear after all the raptor bull options will disappear after the selection. So it actually filters the selection as well as the birds as you go through the process.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Yeah, that ability to filter is so important. And as you said, when a new birder is stepping into South Africa's birding world, I mean, we have 900 odd species one needs to get your head around, but it's not just the species. There's male and female, juvenile, first year, second year, ending up with like 5,000 different types of birds one needs to get one's head around. So I think the search feature is going to be a fantastic tool for new birders, and certainly look forward to hearing how everybody's starting to use it and really benefit from it. Duncan, I'm going to kick back to you. This app allows you to set your preferred bird list order using alphabetical, taxonomic, common names, even the orders based on the sort of sightings of your life list for quick reference. Can you tell us a little bit about the thinking that's gone into this kind of restructuring and the kind of offerings of primary and secondary languages, and why you guys went for this diversity of ordering lists?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, list orders are such a thing, right? I, for one, prefer a taxonomic approach, but I know beginner birders hate taxonomic approaches. So, with the printed media, you're bound, you're set, and there it is. Whatever the author prefers goes ahead, whether it be taxonomic, alphabetical, or whatever. The beauty of an app, and the beauty of this particular app, is that you can actually choose the order in which you would like the birds to appear in. So, for example, beginner birders would prefer an alphabetical list because it's such a quicker method to finding the bird. You know, they're displayed alphabetically, and A for albatross or whatever A for a panelist or whatever order the alphabetical list is in. It's an easier method to find a bird if you're searching for it trying to search for it quickly. However, more advanced birders would likely prefer a more taxonomic approach to birds, and it's certainly one that I would advocate because it groups birds according to families. And you don't have to learn the family name. I mean, the family names are scientific, and that's fine. Skip that. But it'll still list all the birds in the particular family. And that I've found in all the courses, bird courses that I do, it helps so much with learning bird families and thereby being able to learn the similarities in that particular family. So if you searched for heron, alphabetically, you'd get Goliath heron, grey heron, black-headed heron, Scotland heron, whatever. But if you searched for the family, the heron family, doesn't matter what the scientific name of the family is, but if you've sorted it in terms of family, you'll see, bitterns are also herons, and egrets are also herons, and night herons are also herons. So you say, I get it now. They're all this sort of family that's got this dagger-shaped beak and blah, 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 blah. So having a diverse approach actually assists the more experienced birders and obviously assists the novice birders. So that's the beauty of an app, is that we can take both approaches and we can say, look, guys, it doesn't matter if you're experienced or not. Just keep birding. Don't let taxonomy hinder you, or don't let a simple alphabetical list hinder you. You can choose and go into the field and rather go birding and then figure out the way that suits you better, as opposed to saying, I give up. I don't know. I search for waxbill, but I get firefinch and mannequin and all these things. You know what? Search alphabetically. But if I know that waxbills and mannequins and firefinches are in a particular family, go there and the app shows every single species in that family, and you can just go through because you kind of have an idea of what a waxbill is. Additionally, you can search on the app via a name, a language. So you can search via English names if you choose to bird in English. And I know many birders bird in English. Even non-English first language speakers bird in English. However, if you prefer to bird in another language, then there are several other languages. I forget how many, maybe 10 or so languages in which you can sort your list, and thereby access the species as quickly as possible, because that's what we want to do, right? We want to get to the bird on the app as quickly as possible. And you know what? There's a bird flying by, and it's this large, medium large raptor, and it's grey and it's got a yellow face, and you're like, it's a gymnogene. I can't remember the new name. You don't have to remember the new name. You can just type in gymnogene, whatever, or GYM or whatever. So historical names are also covered, because we know name changes are controversial, and we've learned particular bird names, right? And I still call the damn thing a gymnogene. I don't know what you call it, but technically it's African. It's an African harrier hawk, right? But sod it. Call it a gymnogene. But we can still search via gymnogene, and it's a really cool function.
Fantastic. Great to know that those historic names are there. I've always been a fan of the Dickops. I'm not a fan of the Thickenese, but
they don't have beard. Birds don't have knees, right?
Well, no, that's wonderful. Thank you, Duncan. And yeah, really, really great to know that you can customize the way this app functions and really build it to your needs as a user, which is really phenomenal. Now, Guy, moving on to the more sort of business side of things, as one needs to occasionally. Obviously, one of the most noticeable changes that has come with this new Robert's Birds of Southern Africa app is this annual subscription fee, which for new users who've used some of the other apps might find that a little bit strange. Why are we suddenly shifting to having to pay annually to access this product? With the books, I buy it, it sits on my shelf, I'm done. Can you tell us a little bit more about why your teams decided to take on this new economic model of a subscription, please?
Yeah, definitely. When we first started talking about the cost of what we were going to sell the app for, we were actually all against subscription. But the more we looked at it, the more we found that we didn't really have a choice because of what we wanted to achieve with the app. So we wanted to be able to sell the app at a reasonable price, obviously, and we wanted to be able to update it and have regular updates and upgrades to the app all the time so that it's relevant, not just now, into the future as well. And for us to be able to do that it was just too expensive to give it one price. We knew that after a year or 5 or however long, the once-off payment just wasn't going to be enough for us to do that. Also, the app stores are moving away from once-off payments for apps. There's sort of a lot of confusion with the once-off payments as well. You think it's a lifetime payment. Is it your lifetime, or is it the app's lifetime, or your phone's lifetime? So it's actually the app's lifetime, or when the app starts getting or isn't supported by the developer. And a subscription makes things a lot cleaner and a lot easier for us to manage like that as well. And we don't have to offer, 250 Rand a year sounds a lot better and is a lot better for most people than a huge amount once off. So we decided that the subscription model would just have to work best for us, or that it would work best for us. And there wasn't really a way that we could find around it. So we had to stick to it, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever.
Yeah. The beauty, as you say, is that this is going to be a product that lives on. It's not a static thing that will sit on people's shelves or on the back of their phones. by being part of the subscription, you're part of that evolving journey, and the resources are there to keep making this product better and better. So it definitely seems like a very wise approach. And Herman, over and above the sort of app subscription feature, I see you've also given people the ability to opt into a second additional feature, which is obviously this upgraded sort of image recognition software. Can you tell us a bit of your reasoning behind why you've separated that out, and then a little bit more about what this whole image recognition thing is all about, please?
Yeah, sure. Just one addition to the reason why we were in subscription also, by the way, is that we've had a lot of guys wanting to move over from Android to Apple or vice versa. And if you do that with a once-off, you lose the whole value of your once-off purchase. And there's no ways for us to refund you because it's all managed by Apple or Android. So the subscription also allows that switching without you losing too much money, by the way. Yeah, the image recognition. I mean, that's quite an exciting new feature that we've got. I know that it's the best image recognition that I've seen in the market. We've tried all of the other ones. We know it's very, very well implemented. We implemented with a partner, Nick Burnett, who's really done very well for us. It is an additional purchase because a lot of users are not interested in it. The old seasoned birders, they're just not interested in using the image recognition, or they've got a camera or a device that's got a bad or an old camera, and you can't really zoom in too much. Then it serves no purpose. So we made it an optional additional feature that you can purchase, and that's 90 rands a year.
Brilliant. And I mean, obviously, as you say, you need sort of good quality imagery. And Andy, I'm going to come to you next. As a fellow bird photographer, you and I both know that there are literally billions of images out there which could support this learning experience of the users of the Roberts app. How have you gone about selecting the images that have made it onto the app, and how frequently are you planning to sort of update these image catalogs? And I mean, we've already heard from Herman there, sort of 9,000 images for people to enjoy. Is 9,000 the limit? Are we going to keep growing this library? Can you tell us a bit more, please?
I mean, the initial response was overwhelming, with some photographers, just making their entire collections available. One particularly well-known photographer made his entire collection available, and that was over 100,000 images alone, just in one person. So to try and get some sort of order into the system, I created folders for each particular species, and then uploaded the images that had been submitted that I thought was probably suitable for that particular one. We'd specified in our messages that we'd sent out to the photographers that we wanted them of a certain size, and that we wanted them to be to show the sort of best features of the bird to make it easier to identify them. And that was also complicated by the fact that many of the birds have subspecies, and we wanted to feature those as well. Once I created the folders and put all the photographs which I felt were sort of relevant, some of those folders had some up to 100 sort of images in them. I had to sift through those photographs and pick out the ones which I felt were the best ones that illustrated the features of the bird. We tried to include a front view, back view, and side view, and also pictures of the birds in flight, plus all the subspecies. It was quite a effort to get through something like nearly 1,000 birds, so it took quite a lot of time. There's obviously some species of birds which are difficult to get photos of, so we knew we were going to have gaps. To try and fill those, I sent out inquiries to some well-known photographers to try and fill those gaps. And also, where we still couldn't get images, we looked on some of the online photo collections, such as Shutterstock, to bring down a few images. Still some gaps going forward. So, and obviously, as I think it was Herman mentioned earlier on, the photography is improving all the time, or the cameras are improving all the time. So the quality of the photos are improving as well. So the intention is going forward that we constantly review the photographs, and if there are better images, then we'll look at those and upload them, and on a bit on a regular basis. And also, as Herman mentioned, we've got in excess of 6,000 photographs at the moment, and over 3,000 calls.
That's absolutely phenomenal, Andy. Thank you. What an incredible library, and really looking forward to going through some of those phenomenal pictures that you guys have selected. And again, just a massive acknowledgement to everyone who's so generously contributed to this wonderful resource. I'm conscious that we've got about 5 or so minutes left before we need to open up for questions. So last couple, just to wrap things up. Herman, the beauty of this evolving app is that it can keep evolving. What are the plans for the future? Where's Roberts going?
Oh, a lot of exciting things coming. I mean, there are some catch-ups that we have to do still. We need to add the birding sites. We're busy with those as well. We are revamping all the birding sites, just by the way. So, they were outdated in some cases, so we're revamping all of that. Then we're looking at call recognition, that you can record a call and that it'll tell you what bird it is, and various other things. We would love to hear, by the way, from the users what they would want in an app. So we would really encourage people to reach out to us and give us some feedback, and also some suggestions on how we can improve. There were some excellent suggestions that already came from users that added some of the functionality that we've got in the app now. So we really encourage the guys to do that as well.
Absolutely. And Guy, I know you spoke prolifically when we chatted ahead of this call tonight, that you really want people to share their sort of eagle eyes, picking up any errors or changes or things that they want shifted in the app. How can people get in touch with your amazing support team that you guys have put together?
Yeah, well, Herman, if you email us, we've got a support@robertsbirds email address, support@robertsbirds.co.za. It's on our website as well. We're hoping, you may have seen when you open the app, it says that we want feedback. So like Herman says, we're hoping that people are going to give us feedback. Let us know if they've got better pictures, or if they've got ideas, or if they find mistakes that they can help us with, and we can fix them. Like Herman said, we want feedback from people, and we're hoping that, and we'll follow up on all of the mails that we get. We get plenty of them already from people, and if we carry on getting them, it's just going to get better and better. So from the beginning, we've looked at the app as sort of a work in progress. And I think that it's always going to be a work in progress. I don't think we're ever going to be sort of at where it is where it is finished. It's always going to be unfinished, and we're always going to have people sending. We hope we're always going to have people sending us new calls and better photos and good info. So it's quite an exciting project for us and for Roberts to really keep going on it constantly. We've obviously got our other projects that we'll carry on with, but this is sort of you can call it our flagship product, and for Roberts. And I think it ends up being sort of like a community science project almost, or that's what we're hoping, where it can just be improved all the time.
Absolutely. It really does seem like this has been set up to be the kind of project and app where South Africa's birding community can wholeheartedly get involved and contribute and continue to evolve on this journey. But I think the most important question tonight, Herman, if people want to download this app, how and where can they do that?
Okay, if you're on an Android, you go to the Play Store and you just look for Roberts Birds. It's the first one that comes up. There's a Roberts radio station. Don't download that. So just go to Roberts Birds, and then on the App Store, on Apple, it's also very simple to just search for Roberts Birds. But I think John did paste the links in the chat earlier on. I think he also pasted the support email address. So thanks, John.
Yes, there they are. Thank you, Herman. Thank you, gentlemen. It is absolutely such an exciting project that you have pulled together. I've had a blast utilizing the app and seeing all of the incredible features and hard work that's gone into it. And I can only wish you everything of the best. Thank you for sharing the insights into this wonderful product with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to hand back to our very competent host, John Kinghorn, to take us away with the live questions. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Melissa, and to the whole panel. What an insightful discussion this evening, and I think everybody is probably chomping at the bit here to now go and download this latest edition of Robert, which I think is fantastic, and I think is the right decision for everybody to really go and do. It really is a phenomenal platform and an application and a resource. And Melissa, you spoke to the fact that we have so many of these available to us as a South African birding community, and I think that's true. We are often perhaps blinded by the fact that we have such quality, and we overlook the fact that we have so much quality available. And it's truly fantastic because you travel elsewhere in the world, other countries, and you struggle to find even just a basic semi-decent field guide, let alone an app, or let alone an app which incorporates the use of image recognition or easy search functions. So we really are benefiting from it here. Quite right in that I've just shared the links, everybody. So have a look at the webinar chat. So if you want to download off Android or iStore, there the links are, and also the support at robertsbirds.co.za email address for any questions and feedback as well. I know when we were busy meeting for this, the whole panel here stipulated just how important feedback is. Any form of feedback or questions, please, everybody, just send it through to the team. Some really insightful questions coming in here. A couple of them from Lauren Val. And I think perhaps this is something which, given the rise of technology and apps and everybody using their phones, a lot of us do still love books. And I know that perhaps Roberts is now going on a new strategic direction. Perhaps, Guy, you might be interested in answering this particular question. But is there any sort of plan of action? I know that the Roberts 8 revision is taking place, and that's mostly going to be online. But is there any sort of plans for a hard copy book to be produced, a Roberts third edition in the near future, or what is the position on that as it stands?
Yes, definitely there is. Because we've got all these other projects going at the moment, we've got cuckoos and or the parasitic birds book, which we've just started, and we've got the app going. So we have sort of postponed the third edition of our field guide, if you can call it. But we have started on new illustrations and things years ago already on it. It's a long, slow process doing one of those books. So I don't expect it next year, or probably not even the year after that. But we are going to be working on it. And when we do a print run of our second edition, we may try and sort of fix the taxonomy or update the taxonomy rather on that before we get the third edition out. But it's hard to beat a book in your hand, I think. Although the app is nice and it's got everything in it, being able to sit down with a book for me is really special. So I don't want to take that away from everybody. I still want to work on the third edition.
Excellent. I mean, I think that's a bit of a relief. I myself, I'm pretty sure there's a descriptive word for one who walks or arrives home, goes to their library or bookshelf, and then pages through their book and then smells that all familiar smell of the book pages. But I love a good hard copy book, and certainly my first volumes of Roberts that I used when I first started birding are well used. Pages are brown and bent, and it's really undergone some field usage, and you don't get that with an app. The only sign of good usage is perhaps a cracked cell phone screen, and that's generally not welcomed. In terms of the app's usage, obviously, as birders, we travel far and wide, and sometimes we aren't fortunate enough to have a whole host of signal available at our fingertips. Herman, what is the situation in terms of offline usage, especially these features such as distribution maps? You would think that distribution maps and the constant sort of fluctuation, seasonality charts, and changes in the distribution maps might rely on signal. Was that not the case?
No, it's not the case. We can, it allows you to work offline. By the way, we found a bug in some Android devices recently, which we're sorting out now, where it didn't show offline maps, but it definitely is supposed to show the offline maps. We'll be bringing out an update in the next few days, by the way, to resolve that issue. But it definitely works offline without any signal. The only thing you cannot do when offline is you cannot sync your sightings with the server, obviously.
Excellent. I think that's also another relief for many of us who've tuned in here. And I think just one final question as we start to wrap things up a little bit. Remember, everybody, those questions that have not been answered, we'll do our best to try and get you answers post-webinar as well. But in terms of examples of some of the plates, I would probably think that people were to go and have a look at the actual App Store itself. Presumably, there's some examples of one or two of the plates or how the app looks inside. Somebody here has asked, is there perhaps a trial period before full subscription, or at least examples of some of these plates of the app?
Yeah, something that we discussed actually quite at length is whether we should, offer an evaluation version. We decided not to do it because, the brand is already established and there's probably not much benefit in doing that. But on the App Store, as you say, there are images of the app, and it's got images of the different features of the app as well. So you should be able to see what the app can do there.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I think that concludes that. And, I just want to end off here and say that, Herman, you're quite right in that the Roberts brand is established. I mean, for years, it has been the leading resource in terms of ornithological resources at a birder's disposal. Like I said, I've made use of it since I'd started birding at the age of 12. In fact, my folks had got my sister a Roberts Field Guide, the one with the fish eagle, not the large publication, the small field guide. And it was seeing that pricked my attention to start to page through a library copy field guide as well. So, it's impacted many people's lives. It's formed part of their birding journeys, and it's just an absolute legacy that we are so fortunate to have available here in South Africa. For those of you who are worried, potentially nervous about shifting from your old Roberts app to the new app, like I mentioned before we delved into these live Q&As, I really do encourage you, and every single one of the panelists here in our pre-webinar discussion asked me to reiterate this, and this is their willingness to assist from a support perspective. We have an incredibly capable and well-respected team of developers and ornithologists who are really just doing their utmost to create something here which is going to benefit the birding community at large. And that requires public feedback. So if you have any form of feedback, things that you enjoy, things that you perhaps don't enjoy, it's all very much an ongoing development process. And that is the benefit of apps, really, isn't it? Is that it's continuously growing and creating new content. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for all of your fantastic insights this evening. Melissa, it's been an absolute pleasure. I see that it was shy of mass riots taking place upon the news of you joining again. So everybody is very happy that you made a guest appearance. So that's fantastic. Thank you for your time. And to Herman, Andy, Guy, and Duncan, for your expertise, and more importantly, I think, speaking on behalf of everybody, not just from Conservation Conversations, BirdLife South Africa, but all 330 odd participants of this evening. Thank you for each and every single one of your contributions towards creating a product and a service that is benefiting ornithology and influencing the generations of birders here in South Africa, from both the new to the old. It is truly fantastic, and your work is commendable, and we truly do appreciate it. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and everybody else, we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Conservation Conversations. Good night for now.